There are so many memorable things about the Naruto anime that people mention. A very important plot point that I don't feel gets talked about much in regards to the anime would be the tailed beasts. Despite being the single most important plot element for the series, the tailed beasts aren't quite as iconic as, say, the Sharingan. If I'll be honest, I sometimes feel like out of anime, people recognize Naruto more for his connection to toads than his connection to the Nine Tails. And why is that? Well, in my own opinion, I feel like this is because the tailed beasts, while talked about a lot, are rarely ever seen in the physical. And whenever they are seen, they're portrayed to the viewers as villains. I mean, when one thinks of Link, they don't automatically think of Ganondorf, they think of the Master Sword and the Hylian Shield and the Ocarina of Time. I feel the same is true here. The tailed beasts, despite their presence and importance to the story, are mostly censored in people's minds from the protagonists, likely because our positive main hero possesses within himself a pessimistic demon. I could go into the psychology and philosophy behind this contrast, but I'll spare you. I think, however, that the tailed beasts should be celebrated. They might not be as universally recognizable as, say, the Sharingan, but they're still important and deserve their fair amount of recognition. So let's start the video, but first,
welcome to the Amagi! Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on our social media. Let's reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. YouTube's been unsubscribing users from channels lately, so if you're a fan of us, please do us a favor and double check to see if you're still subscribed. It only takes a second, and it helps us a ton here at Amagi. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
There are 9 tailed beasts in all. Technically 10, but they are separated a little. But let's start back from the beginning and actually learn what a tailed beast actually is. At its core, a tailed beast is a monster created out of chakra. They're a force of nature given personification and personality. But where did they originate from? Well, that's something far more extraterrestrial. The tailed beasts are creatures created by the Otsutsuki, an extra-dimensional race of parasites whose only goal is to gain more power and genetic information with which to continuously evolve until they reach the point of absolute evolution, a state known as Otsutsuki God. A point where their physical body and world no longer bind them, and they're no longer in need of physical adaptation, but instead ascend to a higher dimension of formless thought. To do this, they find any planet possessing life and leech the power off of it until this planet and all life thereon dies. How do they do this? Well, the answer is simple, through the use of a creature simply known as Ten Tails. The Ten Tails, unlike the other 9 beasts, is actually not unique. Wholly and completely extraterrestrial, this creature is shown to be far closer to a form of flora than a form of fauna. Unlike other plants though, this wooden creature possesses a mind, senses, and the ability to transform itself many times to show both its development as well as show its adaptation to a given situation. The Ten Tails all start as a seedling. The seed is not much more than simply a lump of living wood. A rather large lump, but a lump nonetheless. It's designed to begin absorbing all the nature energy. This ability is recognized as a form of senjutsu, which is why those who have never trained with the toad or snake sages can achieve a form of 6-path sage mode by simply attaining this form. In all technicality, it works on the same principles of absorbing nature energy and converting it into chakra, but unlike the sages, this tree goes into a destructive level of nature energy absorption. As per the usual procedures that the Otsutsuki utilize, a set of 2 Otsutsuki appear on a planet and plant the seed, likely in a place where it's unlikely to be discovered. When the seed is planted, the lesser ranked of the 2 Otsutsuki, generally a member of a lesser family meant to only serve the higher families, is allowed to go out and find a being on the planet compatible with their karma seal, and thereby their DNA. Once one is found, the member of the lesser family will plant the curse mark, which slowly begins to override the DNA of the victim, creating a living clone. A backup body. That lower class Otsutsuki is then brought before the Ten Tails where they are fed to it. This causes the beast to begin blooming. When it bores into the center of the planet and spreads its roots across the surface, where it begins to consume all life energy from the planet, from the people to the animals to the plants. Eventually, the Ten Tails absorbs everything and kills the planet, leaving it cold and barren. But in exchange, it bears a chakra fruit, which, when consumed, grants an Otsutsuki a deeper well of chakra and more genetic information. This was shown in Kaguya, who gained a new dojutsu on the center of her forehead, a Rinne Sharingan with which she could cast the infinite Tsukiyomi. Otsutsuki, after harvesting this chakra fruit, move to a new planet where they plant another seed and begin the process anew. This process is generally uniform and almost always like the scenario above. However, there are some exceptions, one notable case being the usage of the Ten Tails on Earth. Ishiki, Otsutsuki, and Kaguya appeared on the planet Earth to plant the Ten Tails, but early on in the process, Kaguya attacked and mortally wounded Ishiki, cutting him in half. Ishiki managed to survive by leeching off another and planting a karma seal, all while Kaguya continued the plans. Now, it is unknown what caused this situation to change, but it is speculated that Kaguya either didn't feed her Ten Tails and Otsutsuki, or that she merely fed it the lower half of Ishiki instead as the sacrifice. It's known that the health of an Otsutsuki actually has a great impact on how the Ten Tails develops, and the level of chakra fruit it bears. So if this theory is correct, Kaguya fed her Ten Tails the dead lower half of Ishiki, which hampered her Ten Tails development. Due to this, her Ten Tails did not bore into the core too deeply and did not absorb the energy of all life on Earth, as opposed to a select number of areas and a small number of people. Still, it was capable of creating a chakra fruit, but all this insinuates that the Ten Tails that appears within the main Naruto series is actually only a fraction of the strength that a normal one has. Meaning most members of the branch family of the Otsutsuki family are astronomically stronger than Kaguya. The Ten Tails can be used to create an actual tree, the same that bears a chakra fruit, or it can take a humanoid form that one can use as a weapon to attack others with, such as the case with Kaguya when she fought her sons. This living, feral form is the natural form of the Ten Tails, and what all Ten Tails seeds start as generally. However, through sealing jutsu, it is possible to seal this beast inside of oneself. This results in a similar outcome as if one had eaten a chakra fruit. Instead, one has consumed the tree with which the fruit originates. This also shifts the DNA of whoever possesses it for the duration of the seal, though the process appears to be capable of being reversed should the Ten Tails ever be removed. Absorbing the Ten Tails grants the ability to passively absorb nature energy, can cause one to awaken a Rinne Sharingan, and also allows one to form truth-seeking orbs, which are shown to possess all 5 basic nature transformations as well as yin and yang release, which allows them to further nullify all chakra-based techniques used on them. One will also gain particular Kekai Genkai-based techniques and nature transformations. Generally, those related to the other tailed beasts, which we will get to later. The Ten Tails doesn't always possess a wooden body. The wooden body appears to be a vessel of sorts, as it's also shown to possess a chakra monster form not too dissimilar from the other tailed beasts. In its chakra monster form, the Ten Tails takes the form of a large rabbit with a Rinne Sharingan and 10 tails. Regardless of whether it's in a wooden form or its chakra form, it possesses a large red Rinnegan type eye that possesses 9 tomoe on average, though the color of the eye and the number of the tomoe have been subject to change since the earlier series into the end of the series. But it has always been depicted as the progenitor of the Sharingan forms of Dojutsu. Once Kaguya Otsutsuki had been defeated, the beast was sealed into her son, Hagoromo. With it, he transferred some of the chakra it possessed into others, so that they may be capable of using it to understand each other and defend themselves. Hagoromo was known as the first shinobi to do this, but it was later that his eldest son, Indra, began to weaponize chakra into a form that was known as ninjutsu. A battle broke out between the Sage of Six Paths and his son, which resulted in Ashura taking the mantle of his father to defeat Indra. This launched a long and arduous rivalry and war between the two, which resulted in the Uchiha and Senju clans. But I won't go too deeply into that. As Hagoromo grew older, he found himself weakened and dying. He knew that he had to do something with the Ten Tails, lest he die and its energy returned to it, giving birth to a new Ten Tails. His son, Ashura, recommended that he split the Ten Tails chakra up into 9 parts, utilizing his yin-yang technique, creation of all things. And that is exactly what Hagoromo did. You see, the Ten Tails is not originally meant to become other beasts. That's not a normal ability that it has. Not to say that it's impossible, as the Ten Tails naturally gifts its user with yin-yang release, which is used to make fantasy into reality. But it's not meant to come apart. And logically, Hagoromo could have caused his tailed beasts to become whatever he desired. They didn't have to take the form they did. He could have just made them all dogs. He could have negated the number of tails required and just made 45 single-tailed wolves, but he chose this form. The Ten Tails chakra was then set free, with Hagoromo greeting and naming each tailed beast, and foretelling of a future when a child of prophecy would one day unite them all again. The husk of the Ten Tails, the wooden structure that no longer possessed any life in it, was called the Ghetto Statue, or in literal translation, the demonic statue of the Outer Path, and was sealed inside of the moon, where it planned to rest for eternity until the statue was claimed by Madara and used to keep him alive well beyond his years. Now that we've explained perhaps the most important of all the tailed beasts, let's move down to the lower beasts. The Ninetales, Kurama. The Ninetales is easily the most recognizable tailed beast. It was the first character to appear in the Naruto franchise, its massive frame towering over the mountains. Kurama is by far the strongest of all the tailed beasts save for the Ten Tails itself, but even then, Kurama put up one hell of a fight. Very similarly to how Hagoromo Otsutsuki split the Ten Tails into 9 other beasts, Minato Namikaze split Kurama into 2 halves, a yin half and a yang half. The yin half he sealed inside of himself, and the yang he sealed inside of Naruto through the use of the Reaper Death Seal. These 2 halves were equally strong. Even with his power at 50% though, Kurama was still considered vastly superior to any and all other tailed beasts, which displayed the pure power that the Ninetales possessed. Originally sent to live in the Land of Fire, Kurama was a mostly benevolent creature that only ever attacked humanity to wipe out evil that threatened to corrupt the whole. Eventually, the Gold and Silver brothers attempt to capture him, but instead are eaten. Kurama would eventually spit them back up, though they had somehow managed to consume some of his power. This resulted in the creation of 2 pseudo-Jinchuriki, which, even only possessing a fraction of Kurama's power, were considered enough to reactivate the Ten Tails. It was said that Kurama's chakra was so great that when he was sealed away into Naruto, the remnants left over were great enough that they could be sealed into Sora, which turned him into a pseudo-Jinchuriki, which possessed a partial transformation, leaving his hand scaly and bestial. Kurama's bitterness towards humanity was based primarily on his experiences with them, as during the times after the formation of the Hidden Leaf Village, prior to the time of the First Shinobi World War, he was approached by Madara, who cast him under Genjutsu and proceeded to utilize him as a weapon. When he was finally free, Hashirama had to seal him away into his wife, Mito Uzumaki, who would later pass him along to Kushina Uzumaki upon her death. She noted that the hatred of the Ninetales was strong, and that it could only be countered with love. The power of the Ninetales was also considered too strong for Naruto to handle when it was being sealed into him, so Minato split it in half. Even then, it was considered too strong to be sealed into the Geto statue first, as it would overload the statue. To that end, it always had to be the last one sealed into the statue. Kurama himself was very intelligent and possessed many abilities. Kurama possessed sensory-type energy and could sense chakra at long distances, could sense nature energy, which made him adept at senjutsu, which is only natural for a being that originated from the Ten Tails. He further could sense negative emotions, which was transferred to Naruto upon taking upon Ninetales chakra mode. This was how Naruto knew that the 4th Shinobi World War was going on. Kurama was the only one of the 9-tailed beasts that possessed a chakra mode. When in tailed beast mode, he could also utilize a glowing golden chakra mode not too far removed from a Susanoo or the 6 Paths Kunotsukami. But besides that, Kurama was capable of using a form called Baryon mode. It was a form similar to Kurama chakra mode, but it only utilized its own chakra to form heavy particles. This ability consumed a lot of chakra and was known to shorten not only the lifespan of the one using the form, but the lifespan of anyone near it. In just the short time it was used and came into contact with Ishiki, it lowered his 3-day lifespan to about 10 minutes. Now, this is just a rough guess because the power scaler within me is itching to know how fast Baryon mode lowers the lifespan of the user. Well, let's use Ishiki as the marker. We know that Ishiki had 3 days to live, but after getting into a fight with Naruto, who had been using it, his time was cut short to about 10 minutes. With simple math, we know that there are 1440 minutes in a day. Multiply that by 3 and you get 4320 minutes. That was how much time Ishiki had left. However, after fighting with Naruto, that time was reduced to 10 minutes. If we divide 4320 by 10, we get 432. That means that this form caused Ishiki to age 432 times faster than normal. If you were to fight against Naruto in this form for an entire day, it would likely cut your lifespan short by about 16 months, give or take. And that isn't even guessing the toll it took on Naruto's body. While it's true that Kurama was the one who died, he died because he burned up all of his chakra. Tailed beasts don't have a lifespan, but Naruto did. So a conservative number for how much time Naruto lost would be about 6 months. I say that because Naruto wasn't in constant contact with Ishiki, and Ishiki essentially died from Naruto's secondhand smoke. Ishiki was only touching the form. Naruto was immersed in it. It only seems right to think that this is how it would work. And considering that Kurama told him that limiting his movements to do only what was necessary, it must mean that his lifespan was shortened more when he was moving. But if that worries you, don't let it. Most Uzumaki live well into their hundreds, so even if it cut Naruto's life by 20 years, he'll still likely outlive Hinata. Sorry about that long-winded explanation, I just couldn't help myself. You wanted me to explain the tailed beasts, and that's what I'm doing. The 8 Tails, Gyuki. Gyuki is the 8-tailed beast. It, much like its brethren, came into being at around the time that Hagoromo was dying. After being freed, it was sent to live in a temple in the Land of Lightning. At some point before the First Shinobi World War, however, Hagoromo would appear and subjugate the 8 Tails, and eventually sell it to Kumo in an effort to use it as a deterrent to stop the coming First Shinobi World War. The effort failed, and the war happened anyway, but Kumo continued to make use of Gyuki for years to come. Their control over the beast was absurdly bad, however, as none of the Jinchuriki who ever made use of the 8 Tails really managed to contain it. It's possibly due to the specific type of seal being used, that being the armor seal, which Killer Bee stated was inferior to the 8 trigram seal Naruto possessed by a long shot. Kumo's inability to control the beast led to it breaking free, killing its Jinchuriki and going on rampages. It broke from Blue Bee, his uncle, and his father, and each time the Raikage would gather a coalition to take down the 8 Tails, which generally resulted in them fighting it to a standstill. At one point, the Raikage even broke off one of Gyuki's 4 horns because it had been used to stab and kill his friend, Furui. The Raikage fought it to a standstill, and eventually it would be sealed into the Kohaku no Johei. Despite being unruly and dangerous, the Raikage considered the 8 Tails to be an important part of their military force, and their biggest deterrent to the other nations. So many Jinchuriki were tried. At one point, Kumo tried to replicate the Gold and Silver Brothers' feat of becoming pseudo-Jinchuriki by consuming the flesh of a tailed beast. However, those shinobi that tried perished during the attempt, proving such a thing to be impossible under normal circumstances. At some point, they sealed the 8 Tails into Killer Bee, who was only 5 at the time. Despite his lax nature, he's actually quite worthy of his beast, being one of the few Jinchuriki who could hold on to it. He and Gyuki eventually form a friendly relationship, which results in the 8 Tails within him putting Bee first, oftentimes severing a part of its tentacle to ensure that Bee doesn't die if the beast is removed from him, such as the case when Gyuki was subjected to Sasuke's Amaterasu. To save not only its own life, but Killer Bee's, it severed its limb, which it sealed inside of Killer Bee to keep him alive. Gyuki appears to be capable of regeneration, as even when its tentacles are cut off, it can regrow its limbs quite easily. There do seem to be limitations, however, as Gyuki has not displayed the ability to regrow the horns it lost over its many fights. Gyuki is particularly strong, being second to only Kurama, who it managed to partially hold back with its own power. Gyuki's tailed beast bomb is absurdly powerful, as it can shatter 9 barriers and create a massive valley, but it was also shown that its tailed beast bomb is strong enough to push back even that of the 10 Tails. Gyuki's durability also matches that of its own tailed beast bomb, which makes it by far one of the strongest tailed beasts in existence, no sweat. It also possesses ink, which it can use to create clones of itself or seal away enemies. Truly an adversary to watch out for. The 7 Tails. Lucky 7 Chome. Chome is a sort of bug, appearing to be similar to a beetle in its earlier stages of development, but it's also capable of taking on the form that appears to be inspired by a dragonfly wearing bug-inspired medieval paladin armor. This beast was one of the few tailed beasts not to be given away to any of the 5 great shinobi villages, instead being claimed by Takigakure. Takigakure was a village from which many skilled warriors sprung, including Kakazu, who was known to be strong enough that he nearly succeeded in assassinating the first Hokage of the Hidden Leaf, Hashirama Senju. Chome was sealed within Fu at some point in time, a happy-go-lucky and playful girl. This is only fitting because Chome itself is a very upbeat-tailed beast and doesn't seem to hold any resentment towards humanity or its Jinchuriki. Chome is heavily armored. When not in the form of a beetle, its tails are represented by 6 wings attached to a tail. Chome possesses bug-based abilities, from biting and ramming with its horn to flying and spinning up a cocoon to protect itself and others. Furthermore, it can create a poison powder capable of blinding its opponents. The 6 Tails. Saiken. Saiken is a slug-based tailed beast that was originally caught by Hashirama Senju alongside Isobu and sent to live in Kirigakure. It would become sealed within Utakata. Saiken itself appeared to be energetic and easygoing, and it works well as a team with its Jinchuriki, freely helping when asked and not attempting to take over its vessel as other beasts might. It possesses the ability to create corrosive substances in the forms of gas and liquid. It's also a master of soap bubble ninjutsu. It's shown to be highly durable, with only other tailed beasts and giant salt shakers being considered a real threat to it. 5 Tails. Kokuo. Kokuo appears to be a type of horse, although it certainly looks nothing like your average horse, appearing to be based on a Killin. Ironically, in mythology, the appearance of a Killin is said to mark the birth of a hero or the death of a great sage, which could be a reference to the death of Hagoromo, and eventually the ascension of Ashura to the rank of Sage of 6 Paths. This tailed beast was captured by Hashirama Senju, where he would eventually sell it under the advice of his brother Tobirama. It would find its host in Han. Kokuo, as a beast, doesn't talk too much, tending to remain quiet and reserved. It appears polite, using old-fashioned language when referencing itself. It also seems to be a hermit, stating that it merely wants to roam in a secluded forest away from others. This trait may also be a reference to the Hylian, as it's a rare sight, meaning that it tends to live in seclusion away from humans, only appearing for special occasions. Kokuo, as a horse-hoofed creature, is very powerful and possesses incredible speed and ramming power, which has been used in times past against even Gyuki. Beyond this, it possesses a Kekai Genkai nature transformation known as Boil Release, of which it possesses a number of jutsu to use. 4 tails, Sangoku. You might believe that this tailed beast is a reference to the Dragon Ball character of the same name, and you'd be correct. I mean, what are the chances that its Jinchuriki would be an old dude named Roshi? But to say it's a complete ripoff would not be true. While Son Goku references the Dragon Ball character, it, much like the Saiyan, is derived from Sun Wukong, from the Chinese novel Journey to the West, in which its titular character, whose name is translated to Japanese as Son Goku, is a monkey king with godlike powers that joins an expedition to the west to locate scriptures. Son Goku is very similar, being a large monkey of which the character it was based after was king. Son Goku, along with Kokuo, was sold to Iwagakure by Hashirama Senju. At some point in time, the Akatsuki would begin searching for the tailed beasts, sending Itachi and his partner Kisame to capture Roshi, in which they managed to remove the tailed beast, killing the Jinchuriki. Son Goku is a prideful monkey who holds a distaste for humanity for obvious reasons, going so far as to declare them to be stupider than monkeys. However, Son Goku is open-minded and allows humans to surprise him, holding a respect for any human that properly respects each beast. Son Goku also respects the other beasts, calling each by name, the same as it prefers. It hates being called the Four Tails, as such a name deprives him of individuality and personality. Despite being prideful and arrogant, he holds a deep respect for the Sage of Six Paths, and eventually Naruto as well. Son Goku's personality is very similar and likely derived from that of Son Wukong, who also had very little respect for anyone that didn't properly respect him, even to the point of disrespecting the gods who so often treated him lowly, in so much that the special jobs they granted him showed him to be nothing more than a glorified stable boy. Son Goku possesses knowledge of taijutsu and is quite nimble, but besides that, he possesses the unique nature transformation of lava release, which allows him to create volcanoes. The Three Tails, Isobu. Isobu is the Three Tails, and so far remains the only tailed beast to have died save for Kurama, though the circumstances are quite different. Sold to Kirigakure alongside Saiken, Isobu would be used by Kirigakure as not only a defensive capacity of deterrence, but also as an offensive weapon. The most notable time we witnessed Isobu being utilized this way was by a conjunction of Madara and Kiri scheming, in which they had the beast implanted within Rin no Hara. Kirigakure had planned for this to work as a Trojan horse. A captured Kunoichi returns to the village a hero, only for the beast inside of her to explode outward and level the enemy village. Honestly, the plan is an impressive strategy which could have worked, but it had a fatal flaw. Rin was conscious while the beast was sealed, and thus she had control. While the seal on her heart stopped her from committing suicide, it did not stop her from throwing herself into a position where she could have been killed, and in the end, when Kakashi killed her, Isobu was also known to have perished. Now, Madara was a master tactician and knew that this wouldn't work. Besides the very obvious flaws in the plan, it was also true that even if it had worked, that the tailed beast would have been defeated regardless. A tailed beast without its Jinchuriki, while destructive, lacks proper coordination. It's a very similar concept to the idea that an aircraft carrier without proper support from the air and sea is nothing more than a large floating target. The same was true for a tailed beast. In this era of shinobi, it wasn't uncommon for a prodigy to show up and just out-hacks the tailed beast. The true goal was the death of Rin no Hara, which would have been guaranteed either way. That was what drew Obito to the dark side. That was the goal all along. But I won't go too deep into that, as this is about Isobu, not Madara and Obito. Isobu would eventually regenerate, being the only known tailed beast to die in this way. As said, Kurama also died, but his way of dying was far different. Isobu would eventually be regenerated and recaptured by the Akatsuki to use in the Ten Tails. Personality-wise, Isobu appears timid and shy. He does not seem to be very rude or outspoken, as Yagare easily made a comrade out of him. Isobu is a mollusk and very similar to the mussels that live inside of clamshells. Isobu tends to keep one of his eyes closed at all times. In the anime, it's speculated that this is because his eyes are soft. But on a personal level, I always assumed this to be so because he was envisioned as similar to a sailor, of which many are portrayed as having one eye closed, such as Popeye. The true reason for this is never given, so for now we're going to assume Gurren's analysis is the right one. Isobu, due to being a mollusk, is very durable and covered in a thick shell-like armor. Besides that, it's very strong and capable of many techniques which make it a true threat, of which one is space-time ninjutsu. It could open portals to other dimensions. This is likely a non-canon ability, however, as it appears only in the anime. The presence of such an ability actually opens up a plot hole as well. If Isobu were capable of teleportation, then why did they need Rin Nohara to work as a Trojan horse? They could so easily have just teleported Isobu right into the heart of the village. Beyond this, Isobu is proficient in water release and is capable of using shockwaves. Inside of its belly, it can create tinier versions of itself to help speed up digestion, meaning it's as hard on the inside as it is on the outside. Two Tails, Maratabi. Maratabi is one of two-tailed beasts given to Kumogakure. Gyuki was the other. Maratabi was sealed away inside Yugito Ni when she was 2. It wasn't such a bad thing though, as Maratabi is shown to be mature and respectful of others. It is always sure to use honorifics when speaking with others, and seemed to be one that could easily get along with others. Maratabi has been connected deeply to Kumo for a long time, as it's seen on the murals behind the Waterfall of Truth, in which Maratabi's likeness is kept alongside that of Gyuki. Being a large cat, it was the target of Nekoba, which desired to get the tailed beast's paw print, of which Yugito was happy to provide. Maratabi appears as a flaming blue cat with heterochromia, meaning it possesses 2 different colored eyes. In Maratabi's case, one eye is yellow and the other is green. It may have been based off the kasha, which are yokai in Japanese folklore. In these legends, an old cat may turn into one of these, in which they become a flaming cat that gathers the souls of the damned to take to hell. This bit of folklore is acknowledged in the series, in which Maratabi was believed to have been a person who transformed into such a creature, as opposed to having simply been born the way that it is later described. Maratabi is as nimble and speedy as a cat, and its jutsu completely center around fire release. The One Tail, Shukaku. This was the second-tailed beast we ever saw, and it was the first-tailed beast to be revealed in its full form outside of a flashback. Much like Kurama and Gyuki, Shukaku is well fleshed out as a character. He was captured by Suna and held away in their village. Many had believed him to be the soul of an evil priest locked away in a tea kettle, but none could comprehend what he truly was. Shukaku, like Kurama, was bitter towards humanity and cruel with its hosts, but this did not mean it didn't possess respect for them. One such Jinchuriki, Bunpuku, was a Suna priest who was easygoing and did not hold any animosity towards the village or Shukaku, despite how poorly he was treated by both due to his connection with the other. Still, Shukaku's threats fell on deaf ears, as the priest knew Shukaku was capable of kindness deep down. The priest treated the tailed beast as an equal and was simply content to have Shukaku remember his name. Shukaku may have hated the situation he was in and had a distaste for all humans, but at least he cared about Bunpuku before he was killed in the process of transferring Shukaku to another vessel. Eventually, he would be placed into Gaara, the only of Rasa's 3 children capable of holding the beast. Due to this, he had Chiyo seal the beast into the child while it was still yet in its mother's womb. Gaara was indeed compatible, but this had unforeseen repercussions. Karura went into labor far too early, and Gaara was born premature. As if this wasn't sad enough, his mother, due to complications from childbirth, passed away. She, however, spent one moment with her child, promising to always protect him, which Rasa believed to be the explanation for Gaara's automatic sand defense. However, as time passed, the constant demonization from his village, as well as the constant torture from Shukaku, who swore to break free and kill everyone he loved while he was sleeping, resulted in Gaara slowly losing his mind. Rasa viewed his son as a failure and sent Gaara's uncle, Yashimaru, to attack him. Yashimaru loved Gaara and raised him after the death of his sister. He tried to understand Gaara and protect him, but the 4th Kazekage demanded that Yashimaru test Gaara, so he was to physically and psychologically torture the child. This backfired as Gaara lost control of Shukaku and hurt people. It was this attack that left Gaara as a psycho who attempted to kill anyone in his way or as many as he saw fit. He adopted the belief that everything on Earth to truly be alive required a goal, a reason to live. Gaara believed that his reason to live was to revoke others' rights to live. That was until he met Naruto. Now, as for the personality of the beast, Shukaku is a beast of childish behavior. It hates humans due to the way they've treated it, which is a common sentiment held by many tailed beasts. It possesses a deep resentment of Kurama, who always believed that the tailed beasts were considered strongest by number of tails. In fact, many tailed beasts resented Kurama due to these statements, as it always sat Kurama as the far strongest. Ironically, this boasting was true, as Kurama was the strongest. However, Shukaku particularly hated Kurama due to the beast also mentioning Shukaku to be the weakest. Shukaku, however, is far from weak as he possesses incredible sand abilities, including sealing, and he'll never let you forget that either. His abilities with sand impressed even the third Kazekage, who developed his iron sand techniques after those of Shukaku. Being a tanuki, the rivalry between Shukaku and Kurama is perfect, as folklore has always made the tanuki and kitsune to be rivals, as both are crafty and portrayed with similar abilities. Shukaku's body is made of sand, covered in sealing formulas which spread to its sand structures, which can be used to seal away targets. And that, my friends, is every tailed beast explained, from Tale 1 to Tale 10. Or did I miss one? Couldn't have been that important. Fine, we'll do this one too. The Zero Tails. The Zero Tails is one I questioned adding in here, as it technically isn't a tailed beast due to it not spawning from the 10 tails. However, it does call itself a tailed beast, and Dr. Shino in the movie Bonds does indeed call it a tailed beast, so for now let's count it, because when else am I going to explain this? The Zero Tails isn't formed of natural energy, nor is it formed of the 10 tails. Instead, it's a malevolent spirit created from negative energy. This makes it closer to a tulpa or a thought form, a creature born of the thoughts and emotions of others. Its origin isn't too far removed from dark matter of the Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon game in that respect. It is the embodiment of negativity, and much like Nue, possesses access to Dark Chakra, which Dr. Shino utilized with his cutting-edge medical ninjutsu to gain access to the 8th Gate of Death without dying. It was used during the Second Shinobi World War by the Land of Sky, who utilized its power to fuel the flying battle station Ancor Vantian. This beast is characterized as a leech wearing a no mask. This is interesting as the beast itself is born from negativity of people and has been shown to possess them and even use them for its own ends, which makes it a parasite much like a leech. And for the no mask, which in Japanese theater is used by actors to portray any character of any age, gender, or even species, as they're many times used to represent demons as well. This references that it is indeed a dark creature, which either represents the connection that this demon has with the humans from which it spawned. It is said to be immortal, and that even if you kill it, so long as humans exist and hate each other, it will always regenerate. That is all 10-tailed beasts, plus 1. Or 0, I guess.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.